Where are the rich putting their money? Let's find out. Welcome to DUI Wallet Talks. Have you ever wondered where the rich put their money? While for the common man, there are investment options like FDs, mutual funds, and gold, what is it that the high net worth individuals invest in? Giving us interesting insights into the investment avenues of the rich, we have with us Sahil Kapoor of 360 ONE Wealth. Welcome to the show, Sahil.
Thank you very much.
And basically, we're looking at the investment strategies of rich. How do they differ from the common man actually out there? So, Sahil, if you could tell us, how does the investment strategy of a rich or a high net worth individual vary from other individuals?
Yeah, so I guess, the investment strategy is not too different from that of a retail investor. How they differ is obviously having larger check sizes, which gives them access to private deals, okay,
Right.
which form, I think, 30, 40, 20% of their portfolio, which is different from what the retail does. I would say 3 points mainly. The first point being, now these HNIs or richer guys have already made their wealth, okay? So they are really looking for wealth preservation over wealth creation, right?
Right.
So hence they have, some part of their capital always in a safety pot is what we call it, right?
Okay.
And this includes, GSECs, very high quality debt, right? Long-term debt. So you like to lock the capital in these kind of assets, some part of it. So I guess the first point is that they have more debt, than retail investors who are mainly doing equities.
Right.
The second, I think, is access to private deals, right? So they can access, stocks before they list. They can access, InvITs REITs before they list, right? So they're kind of accessing, the private deals, both in the equity and debt space is one more distinct feature. And the third, I would say, even with equity, they end up investing with maybe more niche and boutique fund managers than doing mutual funds or direct stocks. So I
Right.
think these three things is how they, I think, broadly differ from the retail investors, I would say.
Okay, but what about fixed income options? Do they have some other options apart from what we normally have?
So they, as I mentioned earlier, before the tax changes, they were happy to lock into mutual funds and earn 7% post-tax. That's going to change going forward. Okay. So now they have that safety pot requirement, but they're getting only, say, 4.5%, 5% post-tax now. So we see, them now investing a lot in InvIT and REITs. Okay. So these are obviously yield-bearing, instruments where you can probably, buy commercial property or a mall property, more diversified, and get yield out of that. So that's one avenue they're going to invest into. Also, we think, private debt, which is more of high yielding debt, where you can make, say, 12 to 14% returns, is also one space which is seeing a lot of, traction from in the HNI community now, right? So these are the two spaces they're obviously putting their assets into: private debt and InvIT and REITs. And also, I would say, some of the hybrid funds and mutual funds, like the equity savings fund and arbitrage funds, will also see some extra flows from the HNI category going forward.
Okay. Could you elaborate a little more when it comes to the Indian stock markets or the equity mutual funds? What are the more attractive options available for HNIs?
So I think what the HNIs do, right, they do what we call a barbell strategy, right, which means that you have two extremes. So they use mutual funds and ETFs and passive funds to at one end, right, and secondly they use very boutique and niche managers on the other end. So they combine these two for an overall equity allocation. So what they end up doing is put 50-60% in large cap mutual funds, in ETFs, in passive funds, and the next 40% they buy these very boutique managers. These managers basically just have a 10, 15, 20 stock portfolios. They're far more patient with their investing. They invest for the long term. They mostly invest in mid and small cap stocks. So, they combine these two to make an overall portfolio. That's how they're slightly different from, I would say, the other investors.
Okay, you spoke of investment avenues in commercial properties. So, when it comes to real estate, most of us would generally think about real estate as buying our first house or maybe a second house. How does the investment in real estate for a rich individual vary from that of the common man, and also investment in art?
Sure. So, see, I think most of the HNIs have physical properties like you and me. So, they obviously keep investing out there. I think what they also do is try to, partner with a builder through a fund format or in a more organized format, right? That can either be lending to builders or it can be, in terms of, participating in the project itself, right? So, out here also they, if all goes well, they end up making 15 to 20% kind of returns, partnering with builders. The last 2-3 years has been a bit sketchy in terms of performance of this asset class, but it's obviously reviving very well going forward. So yes, they do end up investing a lot of money, either lending to builders in a more formal way through a fund structure, or also partnering with builders in terms of competing projects. So that's also a decent asset class, gaining some traction. In terms of art, I don't think there are formal ways to do it, like a fund structure, but yeah, people keep doing it, out of their own interest. It's an emerging asset class, but there's no real formal way currently to execute that asset class.
Okay. And are there any unusual investment avenues for the HNIs, whether including the foreign ones?
So foreign one is obviously very, very exciting. So currently, there is an LRS limit where, any individual can send up to $250,000, every year abroad. This includes, your foreign holidays, your education spend. And HNIs have been using this, to send money abroad. They like to build a corpus, in US dollar terms outside. One thing that is really emerging is the GIFT City. If that kind of goes through, then the avenues to invest abroad will really expand for HNI. So everyone's keeping a very keen eye on how the GIFT City kind of emerges. The GIFT City can give lots of avenues.
What kind of investment avenues?
So you can increase your limit of investing also, right? So currently you can only invest, that LRS amount, but through the GIFT City, you can obviously increase your limits. You can access a lot of fund managers, globally, a lot of other. So typically, if you see, the Indian market offers you nearly everything, right? Doesn't offer you late stage tech companies. So you can't buy Google and Amazon, in India currently. So people have an affinity to buy those kind of stocks, right? Even some great brands, consumer brands like a Louis Vuitton, you probably cannot buy in India, and you can buy, obviously abroad. So I think these are the investments they like to kind of do outside India, something that's not really available to them in the Indian context.